So I was talking about uh, a new idea for the sham of my bed, and rather than doing scallops, very nice large ones, which I like because it's cheeky and certainly I can rock that personality. Um, I was thinking what I would rather have is waves, and I like waves because it conveys water, it conveys emotion, and that you would want those same ends to be the extension of the same beginning. So with ave, A-V-E, with H, have, with have, with wave, waved, waven, haven, I think it's good foreplay for a bed, a bed sham, as it were. The skirt, the the duster. Anyway, I'm really liking the idea of waves, and I need to articulate shape, so I have French curves back here to work on, and I have some colored paper, so I could start seeing how I like that shape as it above the floor. So what else? Anyway, I just wanted to let you know the latest. That's my new thought on the bed sham. To you. So I'm working with these little hexagon pieces. I've made samples thus far using the English paper piecing. So you can buy you could buy your hexagon shapes. And I studied and determined I like the glue method, where you glue the paper and not the fabric. Some people, videos I watch, they glue the fabric. That's too messy for me. I like gluing the paper. And it tends to, from what I can tell, stick to the paper, not the fabric. So I'm using silk, and let's see, I have purchased some felt, 100% wool felt, and which is more, what I want to say, there's more air in it. You can compress it more. It's puffier. And then I have a felt with it's rayon and wool, and it is more compressed already. And so I was just seeing how it was like to create sample pieces. You know, can I articulate the corners? I still want the corners to be sharp to give me a hexagon shape, but you know, I've got a couple of considerations I can play with. I'm turning, you know, you can turn the grain of the fabric, the warp and the weft, so you can turn it on the diagonal. That's an option too, which honestly, I don't mind playing around with that. And from what I can tell, just putting these samples of paper and paper with rayon wool and just wool, I like the dimension. I like that it gives, in giving your eye elevation, it reads more fluid than just a static pattern of a mosaic. So I really like that. There's something, I want to say, personable about the gesture, articulating elevations for your eyes that read as something dappled, dappled to a spy. I was thinking about, when you make a quilt, the papers are really just a great shortcut to get to the shape. And from there, you can baste stitch, is what I recall from my tutorials online. I'm not intending to use this as a quilt, and so I'm not actually going to be sewing the same way. I'm trying to create a honeycomb pattern by building in the negative space, which is the white silk on the back. And, there was that sort of idea of, I would like to keep the paper inside because I'm not going to be using it for a quilt and I'm not going to be washing it. But I was thinking 100 years from now, the paper's probably going to disintegrate. And then that's going to give you little mound of sawdust and a lump. And I was thinking that it's not really proper construction for keeping in mind an heirloom, to have an heirloom quality. So, let's see, what else? What I can determine for now is I really do like the different elevations. And I don't mind being whimsical and turning that grain, be it, your warp and weft run at right angles, but with the hexagon, you can turn it, and so now it can run diagonal on. So the drape is going to be, the fabric's going to run this way, but my hexagon, its warp and weft can run diagonal if I wanted to. I'm not really, I think it just kind of adds more to the appeal, as it were. These subtle variations, either let them lay where they play, or to articulate a sort of a constant reopposing. Like this one has warp and weft this way, we'll put the one next to it this way. Put it on a diagonal. So either just let that happen or be concerted about making it happen. Honestly, I don't really feel the need to try and work that out. I'm pretty satisfied with the randomness, actually. Pretty happy. It doesn't seem like, for something organic in approach, it does not seem like you can lose in terms of going with it. Give me that one. So I'm on. So what I need to do is I need to discover my sewing method. So basically this little thing I'm doing right here was to see if I like the elevations. I do like the elevations. How do I feel about the warp and weft? Should it always be this way? I'm like, no, it could be diagonal too. It makes a lot of sense to me to have fluidity in pattern and in permutations of umpteen possibilities. It feels right. It feels right, like an organic approach is growing as it would. Um, I don't know what else to say on that. By not trying to overlord, uh, by not trying to over mastermind, basically giving it the framework and fretwork. This is what I'm ideating. My quest was noble materials, as is my method, and any meta I put into it. One, not to get too intellectual. I don't want to dial it into something esoteric, something that's hard to understand. So one meta was to put the felt in to create elevations, and to do it in white on a white background too. That lends a shape and articulation with shadow even. And the other is I want to, on this whole, the white's going to be the drape that's hanging down on the headboard from the balcony. The canopy, baldacchino, Italian for canopy of my bed. And I'm going to have one hexagon shape that's going to be cut out so it has a hole so you can see through it. You could see the hue of the back wall. So that's a meta for me that I think is interesting and accessible and adds to the overall quest and ideation of honeycomb. And certainly that is a premise of salutation, I would imagine. What else? Yeah. So, and I don't think it's too esoteric, you know? So, liking that. I like the rayon and wool. I like the wool. I need to figure out how to get the paper out of there. So I think I need to sew that first. Batten it down so those corners stay corners. Remove the paper. Then create lots of little samples. And then I need to figure out how I'm going to attach it. And I can see the grid, the 1-inch grid of this cutting board behind it, so that'll help me line things up. So anyway, I want to get going on that because I've got that quilt over there that's half open because I made a little couch quilt for Minnow, and it could potentially leak feathers if if I'm not careful in how I move it, and that needs, I wanted to get this done so I know how to cover the quilt so I can use it come fall. So yes, I'm excited about doing something. Visual and practical. I'm relieved that it looks like the artwork's a go, so hopefully on their end they will shrink it 1% or 2 or 3 so it builds a frame so my words aren't cut off, because, well, it does not, my meta does not make sense to them at the printing company. It won't make sense to me if some of my words or letters go missing. So hopefully that's a good thing. In fact, I might need to recheck. I just really want to make sure that that goes down, because it would be a wasted expense to have some letters cut off. It'd be a wasted expense of ordering brochures to distribute, because I'm not going to be sending them out that way. So getting back to Brandon here, and you know, I sent him an email to see if he can shrink the overall file to fit in the 11 by 17 brochure border so it's safe for cutting. I did put it that way on Illustrator, but when I saved it to a JPEG, it didn't save my border. So he just emailed me back saying that he can do that. So I don't know if I put this on the video or not, but so it's kind of funny that, you know, he's like, hey, the file's weird. Basically, it looks strange to him. And then I looked at the file, and it's exactly what I want, but he was expressing it didn't have a border, so some of those letters could be cut off. And that makes me nervous, because to the unversed eye, I get that you don't understand my meta, but if you cut off my letters and my words, then I don't understand my meta. So yay, we're on the same page. I can't believe how fast it was for that woman to upload. She put it in her email. She put it in her email and just sent it away. And she said, we're going to double up with it on Dropbox, and sent it that way also. It was like, boom, it's done. I gave her $20. She didn't want to accept any money, but I said, you know, coffee, whatever. She had a little Starbucks there. I said, you like coffee, you know. You know, and it's also interesting to think, I have to say that it feels good to give. It's not a hardship. I mean, I get tips here on occasion, and it's always appreciated. But I think what's interesting about giving a tip is you're giving appreciation. I mean, she got me out of Fairpoint hell, okay? And then trying to retrofit with Googlebox hell and Dropbox hell because my internet's not working. So, you know, it's like, fuck. It was simple, it was easy. At the same time, she's running a business, and I appreciated her being there, you know? It feels nice to be able to give as an elective. So I'm starting my video so I can put that little tidbit in. I'm looking at sewing hexagons, refresh my memory, see how you do it for a quilt, although I'm not doing it for a quilt. And what I'm thinking is I can sew the points. I don't have to sew in between the points, but if I'm going to sew points, I need to provide more fabric to turn over and base the edges so that shape stays that shape. From the front, you won't see where I've sewed down the points to the fabric, the back fabric, but I think each point on the back is going to have a knot. And I like that for both construction, again, providing I have enough fabric turned over here. I like it for construction. I like it for meta, for sound meta. Put your knot on the back and tie each point. 6 points. See? X. Now, what color to do the thread on the back? Is it going to be decorative or not? If I do gold, it's possible gold would show through this. So I'll probably stick with white, the same color as this. What else? So now I need to refresh on that stitching. Both the folding, looks like you just go in one direction, and the stitching would be, the basting would be to secure those points. So then I can release the paper. So I'm studying up on hexagons, you know, how to sew them, how to baste them, etc. So I could get the right idea for doing my project. And I came across English paper piecing curves and applique stitch for a clam. And Mr. Domestic here says that this clam shape is very difficult to baste and tricky to stitch. So I'm actually interested in learning how to do that, because not for my bedding, for my clothing though. I like that idea. I think it'd be very fun, very convivial to make umpteen clams, clam shapes, clothing, bohemian clam shaped clothing. I want to make my own jumpsuits, and I think linen would be nice. And I would put those clam shapes, I would put those on the bottom of jumpsuits in denim and little miscellaneous sundry pieces that are cute, convivial, and winsome. Maybe with a little worn-in quality. The clamshell design that I like was what Mr. Domestic showed. It was layers of them. I think it would look actually pretty smashing on some bottoms of some pants, be it jumpsuit or, you know, of the bell fashion, bell bottom fashion. It's the layers of clamshells I think would be convivial.